Welcome to the Full Minded with Alyssa Bette podcast, where my mission is to normalize the human experience. I believe there's power in authenticity and building a community immersed in it. I plan on bringing you on an in-depth and transparent journey of my life through solo episodes. I will also be interviewing a range of individuals who are willing to share their unique stories. On this podcast, we will dive into topics such as mental health, heartbreak, loss, change, trauma, self-love, and every other topic that makes up the human experience. While I do my very best to provide you insight and knowledge on these subject matters, this podcast is not a substitute for professional help. I am not a licensed therapist. I am simply a human sharing my experiences with the intent to help people feel less alone. If you are suffering, please consult with a licensed professional. Thank you so much for tuning in and enjoy the episode. Welcome back, guys. Oh my God, I'm so excited to be recording this episode today. I have butterflies and a bit of nerves just because I want to do this story justice. Like, this trip was absolutely incredible and there's so much I want to share with you guys, and I'm just so excited. So I've had some anxiety and some anticipation with recording it. And also I've just switched to a brand new recording platform, which I've not used yet. I've done a couple test episodes with my producer, like a couple few minutes recording here and there. But I had some serious issues with my other recording platform where it wasn't saving, or it was deleting, or it was never recording. And so I feel like I have a bit of drama from that. And now I'm just scared, especially when it comes to a bigger episode. Like, it's different if I'm doing a 30-minute episode here or there, right? But to do an episode of this magnitude that is this intense for me, I'm like, I would throw up if it deleted. Like, I would just not be able to go. So I've definitely been a little bit nervous with recording this one because I'm just like, oh, nothing better happen, but nothing will happen. And I just chatted with my producer and we got all the settings on the right things. And I'm just sitting in my office in perfect posture, hoping for the best. How have we been doing? It has been a minute, and I appreciate your patience with the delay in this episode as I got a new recording platform, a new computer, and I'm basically starting fresh. I've missed you guys. It feels weird not jumping on the mic, but if you've been following along, you know that I've been living my best life in Bali, and I ended up being there for 3 months. I'm back now. I'm back home. I'm in my office today. I've not recorded in my new apartment's office. And I have the light on, a little lamp on, and I'm wrapped up in a blanket like a burrito. And I'm so ready to tell you guys everything that happened in Bali because it was incredible. So for those of you that, have been following along on my personal Instagram, I brought this little miniature mic that I had purchased from Amazon before I went on the trip, and recorded my episodes on that. And I also was recording vlogs to keep everyone in the loop. At the beginning of the trip, before I left, I actually debated, bringing my big Yeti mic with me, the one that I usually use for podcasting, or not bringing it at all. Because I was like, should I just take a break from podcasting for a minute? Should I just go live my life and then come back? I had no idea how long I was going to be gone for. No idea that it would turn into a 3-month trip. But my producer advised against it. He was like, no, I think you should bring a mic. If not your Yeti, just bring a little one. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'll do that. And then I got thinking maybe I could vlog and maybe I could just do little episodes of where I'm at. And I'm really grateful that I did that because I had not really vlogged too much on Instagram, just sharing little updates and things like that. I'd been wanting to show my face more on Instagram and speak to my audience and get comfortable doing that. But it was something that made me nervous. Honestly, is for somebody who can't shut the fuck up and loves to talk, I just was like, What am I going to say? Turns out I was fine. I had plenty of things to say. And it was cool because it really engaged my audience. I feel so much more connected to my community that I've built on social media and the podcast, because I feel like by speaking about all of my experiences on the trip and sharing all these different angles, it gave people more context and more subjects to really like speak to me about. And so it was a really cool thing to do. And I'm glad I did it. And glad I didn't leave my mic at home, because there would have been no podcast episodes for 3 months, and that would have been wild. Okay, I'm so excited. I'm so excited, guys. For those that don't know anything about the Bali trip, like literally buckle up, because this was one of the coolest experiences of my life. I went to Southeast Asia last year for 7 weeks. I did Vietnam, Thailand, and South Korea. And I came back from that trip buzzing. I was like, I don't think there could be a better trip. This was the most incredible thing. It changed my life. Like my soul is just lighter. Like, and then I went to Bali this year. Oh my God. Let's get into it. So before I ended up taking this trip this year, so I ended up leaving in March, and I was there for, March, April, May, and a bit of June. I had no idea where I was going to go in Southeast Asia. I just know when I went on my trip last year, it felt like home to me. Like I was like, how do I feel more at home here than a place that I've lived my whole life? Like, right, I'm born and raised in North America, in Canada specifically. I've lived in different parts of the country and even lived in the States for a bit too. And I move around a lot. I feel like every couple of years I kind of get bored. I'm like, a new place. But when I went to Southeast Asia for the first time, I was like, what is this? Like, I prefer this way of living. I prefer the laid back, version of life and the lack of hustle culture. Like, I feel like in Western culture, it's very like grind, hustle, normalizing burnout. And I'm just like, ew, no thanks. So when I first went to Asia, I was like, hey, this is beautiful. And I'm absolutely in love with this. And I fell in love with the culture, the people, the people in Vietnam too. So I knew this year I also wanted to go back to Southeast Asia, because that's just what I knew and what I loved. And I actually debated going back to the same countries, not South Korea, actually. I would go back again, but not anytime soon, I don't think. But Vietnam and Thailand more specifically, because I did the south of them and I really wanted to do the north. I heard that they're even more beautiful. So that was my intention, was to go back to the same places. And part of why I wanted to was because it was comfortable and I knew it. And I'm like, okay, I know what it's going to be like. I know the culture. I know the dollar. I know all that. Like, you know what I mean? Everything. But then I got thinking and I'm like, I should really try something new. I should switch it up. So I was just Googling flights, and actually my computer suggested Manila. And I was like, wait, what's Manila? And I Googled it. I'm like, oh, cool. It's in the Philippines. So I was like, oh, the Philippines would be cool. It's funny because like for business, I do plan and like foresee a business plan or where I'm at in the next year or so. But like for my personal life, I just exist. And for traveling, also just exist. I feel like I grew up in a really structured household that we couldn't really live in the moment. And every moment was accounted for. And I don't like that way of living. So I've really pushed back on that and try to have absolutely no plan for my personal life. Just let the days roll as they go, especially on vacation. Like I don't pre-book anything. I just arrive and I hope for the best. So I was like, okay, Manila, it's a one-way. It would get me to Southeast Asia. It's close to, other places. I was thinking maybe I would do Malaysia, Indonesia. I just had these rough ideas, right? So I book a flight to Manila and I'm like a one-way and I'm like, let's fucking go. Let's see the vibes. So then it was like a week before too. I think I booked it a week before. So I called my staff and I was like, by the way, I am just going to yeet out of Canada for a bit. I don't know how long, but y'all got this. And so, I booked my flight to Manila. I arrived in Manila. And for those that followed me on Instagram, you can actually, if you didn't follow the trip on Instagram, follow my personal page. It's just my full name and my last name, and check out all the highlights. So I have Bali highlights and there's 4 of them, 1, 2, 3, 4. Watch them in order and you'll be able to understand and get a visual of the things that I'm explaining to you today. Okay. So I ended up renting this this Airbnb that looks like a fucking castle. It's just like one condo, but the way they had done it, like everything was gold trims. There was like, it looked like Blair Waldorf's bedroom or something. Like I couldn't believe it. I seen pictures of it when I was booking it, of course, but then when I walked in, I was like, what the fuck? It was so cool. It was so extra for no reason. It was literally $80 a night. So I said, I'm just going to pop off, because $80 a night is not bad, of course, but in Southeast Asia, it's pretty fucking expensive, which is why I was like in the ritziest place. But I'm like, the first few days I'm going to be jet lagged. I don't know what to expect. I deserve this trip for myself because my mental health is in the shitter and I just need to heal, right? That was the whole intention of booking the trip. I'm like, I was going through some transitional times. One of my best friends was moving away. I went no contact with my parents. Like it was a spicy first couple months of 2024, to say the least. So I was like, I really just need to heal and to sit with my shit and to be in an environment that feels like home to me, because North America just isn't that for me. It just stresses me out more with all the rules and the sirens and the stress. Like for me, it's just not it. So I'm like, I need to be somewhere that's more peaceful. And that's crazy to me, because just going to a brand new country by myself is more peaceful. That's wild. To some people, I'm like, I'm sure that sounds crazy, but to me, I'm like, that makes sense. So I arrive in Manila to my castle and I'm just like, what the hell? This is so cool. And then, yeah, from there, I started vlogging my journey. I did some tours and things like that in Manila, explored the city to the best of my ability. And then I kind of got over it really quickly. So the vibe in Manila, I'm gonna always keep it real with you guys. The vibe is not it, okay? The energy when you touch down is a bit sketchy. And the men made me feel super uncomfortable. So yeah, there's not a lot of places that I've traveled where I've been like, yikes. But Houston, Texas, for sure, I didn't feel safe in the entire time I lived there. Like, I don't know if there was ever a moment I felt safe in Houston, Texas. The men were also really creepy there. And the vibe and the energy of the city was pretty dark. That's the only thing I can compare it to, is Manila felt like that too. But I didn't feel as unsafe in Manila. It's hard to explain, because it's like, whereas in Texas, there's guns and those are legal and there's a lot of drugs and everything too. Whereas Manila, they're more strict on that stuff, but it's just the vibe and the energy and the way that the men looked at you and would yell at you. Like they just almost felt like they had ownership over you. And I'm like, oh my God. And I could take them too. Like I feel confident, like please be my guest. So that helped too. Like, I feel like if I was in a different country where the men were bigger than me, I feel like I would be like terrified, but I feel like I could take these men in Manila if they tried anything. But it was still not a comfortable feeling. And sometimes you just want to live as a woman and exist and not feel stared at and gawked at and yelled at and creeped on. Like, it is exhausting being a woman. And my episode titled Dear Men goes into that in more depth too, because I feel like I just finally was like, Kate, this is what it's like to live as me, as a lot of women feel, I'm sure, in a world where it's predominantly run by men. And yeah, it's a really interesting episode. I go really deep into that stuff. So if you're interested in what I'm going on about right now, tune into that one. So yeah, Manila, I didn't stay for long. I was looking into going to the islands because obviously the islands of the Philippines is where it's at and what you want to be doing. But I don't fuck with boats because I have vertigo. So boats make me really, really sick and they can just throw off my equilibrium and ruin my trip. So I was like, I don't want to risk it. And then the flights were very expensive and the accommodations were also really expensive. I felt like it was either like a dungy, really creepy homestay, or it was like super, super expensive, like a few $100s a night, same as Canada. And I'm like, that's just too much for Southeast Asia. So I ended up leaving there and I remember just being so confused. And honestly, the first few weeks, I'd say the first 3 to 4 weeks of this trip was really, really hard for me. I almost left twice because of it. Like I was having some fun moments, but overall I was not feeling good and I was not having a great time. So Manila, like I said, like I just got really fed up with how unsafe I felt. And so I ended up flying into Bali. My flight into Bali was 3.5 hours. It was like late at night and it was the worst flight I have ever been on in my life. It was nonstop turbulence and they had put me in an emergency row with no window. If you've been following along this long, you know that I have vertigo. I've had it since I was a baby. It's an inner ear problem. So flying, boats, all those things, it makes it really challenging for me, or even driving on windy roads. So the turbulence was crazy. I had a panic attack, and that's standard for me to have anxiety on flights, but a full-on panic attack is, I think that was like maybe my second one. It was so bad that I actually grabbed the woman next to me and I was like, oh my God, she was like trying to sleep, the poor soul. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry to interrupt your sleeping, but like, I'm just not doing well. If we could just bring the attention to me for a moment. It's so funny looking back on it, but it was not funny in the moment. And I really wish that someone could have saved me. But she was actually super sweet. She's like, do you have anxiety? And I was like, certainly. She goes, I do too. And she was doing like breathing exercises with me and holding my hand. I said, oh my God, I love you. I owe you my life, literally. So that helped regulate me a bit, but it was still really bad because she ended up falling asleep and the turbulence didn't stop. It was so sketchy. I couldn't see out the window. It was pitch black. I was tired. And when I'm tired or hungry, I get really dysregulated. So it's just like, oh, it's the worst. So I was not feeling good. I was feeling nauseous. And honestly, I just cried the whole plane ride. And I was like, what is this Southeast Asia trip shaping up to be? My God. So I touched down in Bali. Immediately when you touch down in Bali, you can feel the energy shift. It is beautiful. I feel like the only way to describe it is like the energy is just like peace. It's just absolutely peaceful. You feel safe and you feel calm. And it's just, the Balinese airport is so cute too. It's massive. It's super organized because of how westernized that island is and how popular it is to visit. So it's very organized. I honestly didn't even look into a visa before I went. Like I just showed up. I just hoped for the best. I said, they better let me in. They gonna let me in. Okay. I got good vibes too, Bali. Let's go. So I just showed up. They gave me a visa on arrival. It was $30, I think, Canadian. And it's good for 30 days. And then you have the option to extend it another 30 days. So I think if you look into a visa before you go, you can get longer ones. You can get nomadic ones if you want to live there, etc. But I just wanted to show up and I had no idea what to expect. So I check in. It's super seamless and easy. I will warn you, the only thing that I really hated in Bali was just this one experience. So when you land in the Balinese airport, there are all of these men trying to sell you cab rides aggressively, like taxi, 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 and like in your face. And like one thing about me is like, I'm like a kind little soul. Okay. I really am. But if you fuck with me, like you will regret what you've done immediately, especially if you're a dude. Like I will throw down, like no problem. If you ever touch me and you're a dude without consent, forget about it. Like don't hold me back. I don't want to be held back. Like you deserve what is coming to you. So these men are in my face. Okay. There's like 6 of them. I'm exhausted. I just went through so much trauma on that flight. I've just had a panic attack. Like get out of my way. I've said no. And I literally kept saying no. And they didn't understand. They understand. No, of course they do. I'm not going to give them that, but they just ignored it. And one touched me and I said, fuck off. And I hit him with my suitcase. I just said, no, my carry-on. I swung it at him. I don't give a fuck. That's one thing about me. I don't give a fuck. Like, don't cross me. I won't cross you, babe. Like I'm in my own lane, stay in yours. So I didn't like that. That was a very sketchy start. And actually I got cash out as soon as I got there. I got cash out and I got a SIM card ASAP because if not, your phone's not going to work, right? So I'd recommend you do those things first. But a lot of the ATMs in Bali, they don't give your card until the very last minute. So you usually forget it. They give everything else, like your cash, your receipt, everything. And then it's like, don't forget to take your card. But most people have walked away. Hello, I'm most people. I had walked away. So I go through this sea of like disrespectful men trying to sell me a cab ride. And realize I've forgotten my debit card in an ATM upstairs. So I have to walk back through the sea of men twice. I have to go back and they recognize me too. So they were giving me shit and yelling at me still. I was like, oh my God. It's like 1 a.m. It's certainly past my bedtime. I'm hungry. I'm angry. Like this is not a cute situation. So I literally go back up. I get my debit card. Luckily, I found it because they have a collection of debit cards that people had left there because that's the thing. And it was luckily like a bank, like there was people working there too. So if it was just a random ATM, I don't think I would have seen it again. But I'm like, could you imagine? How would I have pulled cash the entire trip? Anyway, So I come back down. I don't look at them in the eye. I don't even speak to them this time. And then if you go past all of them, there's actually a Grab office where you can go inside and they will order you like a specific Grab. Grab is like the equivalent to Uber and Lyft here. So definitely get a Grab. Don't trust those men because they can be really scammy too and tell you one price and then completely take advantage of you. So you don't want that. Like they'll tell you one price, you get there and then it's another price. So don't do that. Don't do that. Just get a Grab or a Gojek, something you can track and something that you can trust. So that was really the only time where I was like genuinely angry with like the Balinese, because for the most part, they're just so sweet and angelic and saying prayers over you and lighting incense and minding their own. So I get to my hotel. It's absolutely gorgeous and beautiful. They're trying to like bless me and give me a tea. And I'm just like so scattered. I'm like, does this have caffeine in it? I can't have caffeine. I just need to rest. Can you just send me to my room? I'm so sorry. I was like, I'm such a nice person. I've just had such a terrible journey. I just need to like lay down and speak to no one for maybe a few days. So they bring me to my room. It's chill. It's comfortable. And I go to sleep. I wake up and I open my balcony doors and I just breathe. And I'm like, wow, this is where I'm meant to be. And I actually vlogged the first morning and I was like, guys, I'm no longer in Manila. I just chose to randomly fly to Bali. And so far, I've spent a night here. I hadn't even explored yet, okay? I had not even explored the streets of Bali. I had just been dropped off from the airport to my hotel, went to bed, woke up, and was like, I already love it more than any other place I've visited in the world. I just knew, based on the energy alone, I knew it was going to change me. And it's interesting because talking about this part of the trip and even reflecting back when I looked through my highlights the other week, I had a big cry because I obviously miss it. And I looked through all of my highlights and I'm like, I don't even recognize her. Like the bitch that showed up in Bali, she ain't me anymore. And I feel that way about the first month of my trip. Like I feel like the first month of my trip was just me shedding what I was meant to shed. And it's really powerful and beautiful because when I arrived there, I expected peace and tranquility and healing to be super seamless. LOL. Healing to be seamless. It was funny. It's a funny thought in hindsight because I was like, I just want to go and meditate and just have the best time and eat fruit and nothing be hard because I deserve nothing to be hard because my year has been difficult and I'm in so much pain and I just deserve that. I just, expected. So when I got there, where I was staying in Kuta, I actually wouldn't recommend anyone go to Kuta. It's just like dirtier beaches and not as good of vibes. Like now seeing the rest of Bali, I wouldn't recommend Kuta to anyone. If you want to be in that area, I would recommend Seminyak. So Kuta was all right. It was amazing to me at the time because that's all I knew. But just looking back and examining it out of all the places, like it was all right, The hotel was really nice, though, where I stayed. It was really beautiful. And then I ended up making friends with this girl from London the first day. So that was cool because we kind of had each other and we would go out for dinners and go to the beach and just have something to hang with. Was honestly really nice. And then the challenges started. Okay, so I want to say it was like 5 days in. We went out for dinner at this Japanese restaurant. It was phenomenal. It was like a club built in. It was all you can eat. And it was all these really incredible dishes. I'm really adventurous with food. I used to not be. Well, I say that, but like I wouldn't eat like a cockroach or anything. You know how they like crisp fry all these insects sometimes? I wouldn't do that. So I'm not as adventurous as some people would be, but I certainly like to try different types of food, especially when I'm traveling, right? So we have this gorgeous meal and it's like the ambiance is on point. And then we go to the club that's built in. There's like 3 levels and I find the R&B floor. So I'm like, forget about it. That's where I'm staying. I'm not listening to, I didn't come all this way to listen to LMFAO. Okay. No, fuck that. Fuck that. I don't even listen to that here. So I'm having a good time. We're having a good time. There's cute men. It's a good time all around. Okay. And then we go to leave. And we go to order a Grab and I'm like, I feel a bit weird. I feel a bit like nauseous weird. And my friend's like, oh, that is strange. Like, let's see, maybe it's just like the food. Maybe it's just the sun. Maybe you got heat stroke, and we're like thinking of everything. And now I had heard prior to coming to Bali, Bali belly, people, Bali belly, Bali belly. What is Bali belly? Let me tell you something. Okay. Bali belly will chew you up and spit you out. It is nothing like if I ever experienced in my life. Okay. So I get on the back of a Grab. It starts to pour rain. I'm having an eat, pray, love moment. It's a good time. Okay. I'm just like laughing and tearing up, and the Grab driver's just giggling. He's like, do you need something to cover like your whole body because it's pouring rain? I said, no, I'm just really living life. I get back to the hotel. My friend's already there, and I'm telling her like, I just feel a bit sick. And I'm like, wait, I lost my key card. So I was just waiting to get in my room, and the security wasn't coming. And I was just like, oh my God, I'm feeling really sick. I'm really, really sick. I'm going to give it to you guys real because that's just who I am. And if you're going to Bali, you need to know the deed. So here we go. So I'm like, I'm literally going to shit my pants. So like, you need to let me use your washroom. Like, so I barely made it. I shit my pants. Not actually my pants, but I go to the bathroom and I'm just like, oh my God, this is intense. And then I'm like, hey, maybe that was it. Like, I'm going to go have a shower and I'm going to go to bed and everything is going to be fine when I wake up. So I have a shower. I go to bed. I wake up and all of a sudden I start projectile puking. Okay. Not just like a casual puke, like a projectile, terrifying vomit situation. So I'm like, okay, maybe it's just once, right? At this point, I'm still hopeful. I'm just like, absolutely, like, it's going to be fine. Maybe it was something I ate. It's okay. In no means am I playing this up or being more dramatic at all. I'm not actually dramatic. I'm theatrical, but I'm not dramatic. I will never blow a detail out of the water for like an effect. I'm just very matter of fact. I think just my bluntness shocks people, but I'm not kidding you. For 8 hours, it was, 8 hours. Every 3 to 5 minutes, I would puke. And not a small puke. Like, I'm talking like gutted. Like, by the end of it, I could barely breathe. And then about halfway through that, I started like shitting at the same time. I don't know if you've ever like shit and puked at the same time. I think this is the most vulgar I've ever gone on the podcast. Let's fucking go. But it is a different type of hell that I would wish on no one. I was unwell and it was crazy because my stomach was like super swollen and I would notice every time I would puke, it would go down a little bit. And I'm like, what is this? So I didn't sleep all night, of course, because I was up every 3 minutes. I would still try. Like, I would lay down, I would rest, close my eyes. I think I would drift for a couple minutes, wake up, same thing over and over and over and over again. It wasn't until it was like 9 a.m. the next morning that I stopped, at least, or the periods were longer. Like, I was no longer vomiting. That was good. It was just coming out the other end once in a while for the like next day or two. So the next day I text my friend and I'm just like, girl, I've just been through the trenches. What the fuck? I'm pretty sure I got what was called Bali belly. Like, I've had food poisoning, even when I traveled Southeast Asia last year. Like, I got sick. You know, you have traveler's diarrhea, all that shit is not the same as Bali belly. This is like the spawn of Satan himself was trying to get out of my body or something. Okay. This is wild. So just to give you an idea of how weak I was from losing so many fluids, I couldn't open my bottle of water. Like, I had to have someone come in and open my water for me. Like, it was wild. But luckily, with it being Southeast Asia, the healthcare is amazing. At least it was for me as a tourist. I can confidently say that you text a service and you're just like, hey, I have Bali belly. And they bring you a doctor and a nurse shows up and they bring you all these IVs, whatever you'd like. You can basically customize your order. Like, in Canada and North America, in Canada, I'll say, because the States is a different healthcare system. In Canada, like, they really don't be giving a fuck about you, you know? Like, if you have a broken arm, you're going to an emergency room, you're going to wait 12 to 24 hours and you're going to be, you know, talked down to by the nurses. You know, they're going to be like, does it really hurt? Is it really broken into? You know what I mean? Like, our healthcare is actually fucked. And I want to talk about that more because it's just disgusting to me. Sure, it's free, but like, we don't actually get really good healthcare here at all. Like, there's a lot of improper diagnosis. There's absolutely next to no support for mental health. The hoops that I had to jump through to get mental health help in Canada is wild. Okay, I need to shelf this because I will go on forever about it. But so I text the Balinese and I'm like, help. And so they arrive, this doctor, she's amazing. And then there's a gentleman who's a nurse, and they're just like, tell me all your symptoms. I was like, babe, here it is. So they show up, they plug me full of IVs. At this point, the whole first day after Bali Belly, I ate one croissant slowly throughout the entire day, one croissant and the water. So much water, and they gave me electrolytes. So after they gave me IVs, I started to have more energy, but it took me a good few days to come back from that. And mentally, I think just because I was also so worn down and just being alone, I was like, maybe I'm not supposed to be here. Maybe I should leave. And that's when I almost booked a flight back the first time, because I was like, I don't think this is for me. Like, I don't think I'm equipped for this shit. Like, to be that sick was terrifying in a country where you're like, okay, I've been here 45 seconds. Like, I don't know anyone. What the fuck? It is terrifying, but I got through it, and we out here were thriving. Now I feel confident. I can tell anyone who gets Bali Belly, if they go, you're going to be okay. And it's interesting enough, because the longer I stayed on the island, a lot of people believe that there is a purging process when you go visit Bali. There is a purging of energy, a purging of toxins and everything else. So yes, of course, there is like scientific reasons of why you get sick, and the bacteria and the heat, and there's not as much knowledge on, food safety in Bali as there is in other countries. A lot of it is on a spiritual level, is to be believed that you are purging. So I really leaned into that, and I was like, you know what? It is what it is. Whatever needs to leave. And whatever, it's making room for what's to come. And yeah, so the first couple weeks were tricky. I was in Kuta for a bit, and then I ended up going to Ubud after that, which is more jungly. And I actually had this intention to book this jungle. It wasn't a suite, okay? It wasn't a suite. How do I explain it? It was just like a cabin in the woods. It certainly wasn't a suite. It was this cabin in the middle of the jungle. And I was like, this is going to be good for me, because I knew I needed to heal. And I feel like when I was in Kuta, it was not really about that. I was healing physically, but not emotionally and spiritually. So I was like, maybe I need to go to the jungle, check into a cabin in the woods, and just be alone with me and the birds chirping and hella insects. That's what I was thinking, So, I get in my cab, they drop me off. It's like this windy ass road down to the middle of the jungle. So it turns out Ubud is the jungle in general. So you don't actually need to go into the depths of the jungle to be in the jungle when you go to Ubud. You just are in the jungle. Okay. If that makes sense. But I chose the depths for dramatic effect, clearly. And they check me in, and my room is like not completely sealed. So there's a net around the bed for buggies, right? And mosquitoes. And I was like, okay, that's okay. Like, I seen that in the pictures. And then the washroom is actually down these rickety stairs in this tiny little bathroom. And I was like, all I could think was, I'm so glad I didn't get Bali Belly here. Cause like, I think I would just like be sick in the forest. Like, I would not use that washroom. That washroom would make me sicker, like just by existing in it and smelling it and looking at it. No bueno. So I check in, and I'm just like, hey, this is an interesting vibe. It's certainly gorgeous and beautiful, and the pool was cute, and it was like me and like 3 others. It was just this big, huge resort jungle situation with cabins all hidden in the woods and just not that many humans. So I was like, okay, kind of creeps, but all good. So I'm like, maybe if I upgrade to like a better room, the bathroom will be involved and like included, and it's only a couple bucks more. So I messaged them, and I'm like, hey, do you think maybe I could upgrade, and maybe that would make me feel better? I look at the other places, and one looks a lot nicer, and the bathroom is inside, and there's air conditioning. And I was like, okay, cute. Yeah, let's upgrade. Let's spend the $10 and fucking, ball out. So she checks me into this new room, and I go for a swim in the pool, and I'm really trying to lean into this process, guys, okay? Like, because one thing about me is I look more bougie than I am. I can get down and dirty. I love to camp. I love to tent. I love to do all that shit. I may have acrylic nails, but like, I do like to get down and dirty, okay? But let me tell you something. So I'm in the room. It's starting to get dark. Nothing seals. So the bugs are in, they're hanging out with me too, okay? They're living there rent-free. I've paid. They've not. They're there. Then I look, so you know how a canopy goes around the bed and there's like a top piece? I don't know why I felt curious to do this, but I'm really glad I did, because I just kind of jumped on the bed and looked up. When I tell you, there was probably 300 plus dead insects sitting in their juices of the dead insects. I'm not exaggerating at all. I would take pictures if I wasn't in shock. I was like, absolutely not. I cannot do this. But then I started to get all this guilt of like, why can't I do this? Am I not tough enough? Am I not strong enough? Like, what is your problem? Why are you being a little bitch? So I start bullying myself, which is so uncool. And I would not recommend you do it, of course. But I start bullying myself because I was like, bitch, you came here to heal. You want to be in the jungle. It's beautiful, minus all these insects living above you dead. And I did inspect the room. Okay. So I pull back the sheets and there are bugs like in the bed too. Not bed bugs, but just like you're in the woods. Of course there's going to be bugs. And I'm just like, can I do this? Can I do this? I don't think I can do it. So I literally text the people. I'm like, I got to go. This has been a blast. Please help me get out of here ASAP. Please someone grab my luggage. Help me up the forest. Like now. Thank you so much. They're like, is everything okay? I'm like, it's just not for me, babe. Thank you so much. Try not to be rude. Like, clean your canopies, guys. What the fuck? So I quickly book another hotel and I order a grab and I yeet out of there. I call one of my best friends back home and I'm having a panic attack. I'm bawling. I'm just like, why the fuck couldn't I stay? Like, blah, blah. I'm like telling her what happened. She's like, bitch, if you stayed, I would have judged you. That is disgusting. I don't care. What are you trying to prove? She goes, your whole life doesn't have to be like survival. Your whole life doesn't have to be a fucking challenge list. Like, you just like live in luxury for fuck's sakes. Go to a nice hotel where it's clean. Like, you can still stay in jungle areas where it's clean. That was disgusting. That's just unsanitary. Like, I literally would have judged you if you stayed. And that really helped shifted, you know, obviously my mindset at the time. But I think then I just was creating this deep healing, immersive experience that I thought was going to happen if I put myself in the middle of the jungle. And so I think that's what I was grieving and fearful of not attaining because I had left the disgusting room in the jungle. So I check into my new place. It's clean. It's still in the jungle, but like it's gorgeous. It's more close to like the coffee shops and the other humans of the world. So I'm feeling good about that. And it's cool because everywhere in Asia is so unserious. I can't think of a better way to explain it. Like you just text your doctor. Like the doctor will be texting you the next day. Like, how's your diarrhea? Like, how are you feeling? Like with emojis, like a smiley, checking in on you, Miss Alyssa. Like it's so cute. And it's my type of shit. Cause like, I want to be put in smileys and emails, but I know in my culture, it's like not a thing. It's really unprofessional. So I love when a doctor hits me with an emoji. I think that's so cute. And same with the staff at the hotel. They're like, how can we assist you? Want a coffee delivered to your room? Babe, of course I do. Literally. Has anyone ever said no to that? So I check into this hotel. It's significantly more peaceful, but I'm still feeling uneasy because I'm like, I just want to heal, bro. Like, somebody heal me. Like, I'm just trying to put in the work. I'm here, I'm present, but I'm not enjoying the feeling. And I felt really lonely and I felt really uneasy and I felt really scared, honest. I was just like, what am I doing? And I also had, you know, the thoughts and the memories of my prior Asia trip the year before just lingering about. And it was such a good trip that I knew coming into this one, I may not be able to top it and it's going to look different and that's okay. So that was something that I was coming to terms with too, is maybe it just won't be like my other trip. Maybe it's not going to be as good. Maybe it's not going to be as fun. And that was something I was like kind of struggling with accepting. Now, honestly, one piece of advice I would give people who are traveling, especially solo, is if you are feeling alone and isolated and like you're not meeting people and you would like to meet people, is book a tour, book some sort of like activity. That is what my friend told me, and it was the best advice ever. So whenever I'm feeling lonely and I'm solo traveling, I just book an excursion or something because you are bound to meet people that way. And it's so cool because the domino effect of solo travel is powerful. Domino effect, some people know it as a butterfly effect, right? If you make one decision and all your entire trajectory of your trip changes and you wouldn't have met all these people or done all these things, right? So my butterfly effect was when I feel like I have two. When I accepted that this was never meant to be easy, what I was trying to achieve, the level of healing I was trying to access, it required purging on a physical, on a mental, on a spiritual level. It required a significant amount of purging. So when I leaned into that and said, fuck, it's meant to be hard. I'm meant to be struggling. I'm meant to feel lonely. I'm meant to feel isolated. Like this is on purpose. That was a game changer because that changed the trajectory of my trip. That came a little later, but before the other butterfly effect was booking this tour, I went mudding on four-wheelers and it changed my whole trip. So I booked it. I'm like, okay, this seems cool. And it comes with a free lunch. Like, let's get into it. So I arrive. And it's cool because the pickup place for multiple tours was kind of like a small version of a beach club. So there was like a pool and obviously they had food and tables. It was a beautiful view and like nets where you could sit on and chill. So that was really cool because everyone who's waiting or has finished a tour can also meet people. So I end up waiting there. I have my free lunch and then this is so cute. It's so wholesome. Like, it's so cute that I just like took myself on a trip by myself. Like, I had never done anything like this. Okay. So I'm waiting for my little tour guide. Okay. So they bop us on this little vehicle that drives us to the mudding place. I get there. I end up meeting these really nice ladies from Singapore and we're like super excited. And then I meet these other girls from England that had just finished it. And they're like, oh, you're going to love it. It's going to be so much fun. And I was like, oh, I can't wait. So anyway, I get on this four-wheeler. We got these big ass rubber boots. I actually just like had the best time. Like, one thing about me is I do love adrenaline. I'm an adrenaline junkie and I was going faster than everyone in the group. They let us like spin around, basically go like around this huge mud puddle as many times as we want. And I just was flying. I'm bummed though, because I was waiting for the pictures afterwards, but there was something wrong with the pictures. Like, they weren't loading. So I ended up just being like, okay, no worries. But I do really wish I just waited for them to troubleshoot it, because how cool would that have been? I'll do it again whenever I go back and we'll get the pics. But yeah, it was really fun. And then, yeah, because of that, I went back to that main place where we, kind of waited for the tours to start. And I ended up seeing those girls from England, chatted with them. And then I was also hanging out with these girls from Singapore and we ended up having some food together and just shooting the shit. And then the girls from England and I started talking and I was like, I'm going to go to a pool club tomorrow if you guys want to join. And they're like, for sure. So I ended up going to this pool club. It's called, I think I'm saying it right, Creta. And it's one of the most Instagrammable places in Bali. I think it's so beautiful. It overlooks a rice field and it's just this huge pool club and it's absolutely amazing. If you do go, I would recommend you book a bed in advance because they usually sell out and there's not a lot of places to sit. Unless you're eating at the restaurant, you're either in the restaurant or in the pool. Like, if you don't have a bed that's rented. So I feel like I would recommend that. Book it a day or two in advance. Okay, that's all. So I get there, I'm having a good time, and then they bring friends from their hostel, a guy and a girl, and I become really good friends with them by the end of the day. The guy, he's also from England. He's like, I'm actually going to go to Uluwatu and do some surfing. I said, what's Uluwatu? See, this is the thing. I don't research anything, bro. I just show up unless I feel like I'm going to do something like that tour. I'm like, okay, now I'll research it. Like, I just exist. I think that's the best way to do travel, especially solo travel, because it keeps so many doors open. Like, if you don't have a flight booked to somewhere else, or if you don't have a hotel, I just book like night at a time, usually, sometimes two in advance. It gives you such a good opportunity to get the vibes of the hotel. Like, if you just book 2 nights or 1 night and you show up and you're like, hey, I like it, I want to extend. And I just extend when I want to. And then I'm not tied to anything. So he's like, I want to go to Uluwatu to surf. And the people next to us over here, they're like, Uluwatu is amazing. It's the best beaches in Bali. We would recommend you go, like 10 out of 10. And I was like, sure, I'm down. So we went to Uluwatu. We were there for, I think, like 4 or 5 days. It was amazing. I was still struggling a bit, but I was starting to feel better. I think I just needed some community and I needed some friends. Like, I was just feeling really lonely. Obviously, with the time difference, it was hard to speak to all my friends back home. So I think it really helps, like, making friends with this guy. He was so lovely and very respectful too. So we just shot the shit. I did have like a little bit of a near drowning experience in Uluwatu there. It was funny now. It was a bit scary. So the waves are intense and like, I don't surf. I didn't try to surf. Like, babe, I can barely swim. Like, don't get me an object involved too. Like, that seems like crazy. So I just watched the surfers and was like, yay, cheering them on. But I'm not going to surf. Maybe one day, but certainly not in Uluwatu. That's not where you start because the waves are hella big. I just like to swim in them. So I'm just swimming and the waves are big. I love playing in waves, you know? One thing about me, I'll rent a wetsuit and just swim in the waves. Like, I just love it. So I'm just swimming. I'm having the best time. And all of a sudden I hear the lifeguard blowing his whistle. And I was like, ooh, someone's in trouble. And then I look up and realize that person is me because I'm drifting very quickly to the sharp rocks that look like they want to kill me. So I was like, oh no. And then everyone's like, swim, swim. Everyone is watching me, okay? Everyone. There's like, okay, let me give a realistic number. I was about to say 900. That's extreme. There's probably a few hundred people on the beach, and in the water, there's lots of surfers, and everyone, it felt as though everyone was staring directly at me. And people are like, swim, swim. And I was like, babe, I'm literally swimming. Like, this is me swimming. Like, I'm trying to swim. But the current is so strong that it just said, no, sayonara. We're taking this girl with us today. So luckily, this surfer like swam out to me, said, grab my board. I grabbed onto the board and he brought me into shore. But yeah, these rocks, I have a video of it actually. It's crazy. These rocks are wild. Like, they're super sharp, and the waves and the current is just wild. Like, it's unbelievable. It's like nothing I've ever experienced. Like, you really don't have control over yourself in those waves. So thank God for this surfer man. It was so funny. He like pulled me up to shore, and I was like basically on the shore, and he's like, yeah, you can let go. And I was like, oh my God, true. Yeah. I'm like literally like my stomach's on the sand, but I was just so freaked out. And then, yeah, everyone on the beach was like just kind of staring, and I was like, good afternoon. Hope everyone's enjoying Bali. Hope I put a good show on. Like, sometimes I just wish my life was being filmed consistently, because the wildest shit happens to me, and I come on, I tell you guys about it, but like, you really got to see it for yourself. Like, my friends get like an up close and personal version of it, but it is wild. It is really crazy. But anyway, so that was pretty funny. Funny now. So despite almost drowning, honestly, Uluwatu at this point was my favorite. I was like, this is my favorite part of Bali because I'm a beach bum. Like, one thing about me, I'm not meant to be in an office. I'm meant to be on a beach somewhere, preferably with my titties out, and just, you know, drinking some water and staying hydrated. Like, that's like where I'm meant to be. I feel that's my calling. So I loved Uluwatu because it was all beaches, and it's really cool because you have all these different options of beaches, right? Like, you've got like Bingen Beach was like a different vibe, and you have no service, and it's just like a long stretch. And you've got Dreamland Beach where the sunsets are the best and the waves are huge. Padang Padang is just the one that I almost drowned out, but it's really cool for meeting people. And then they have like reggae music playing, and they just like serve you corn, and like there's just cute little like warangs is what they call the restaurants that are usually like locally owned and locally made food, and they're the best, and they're the cheapest way to eat in Bali too. So just make sure they have some good reviews is the only thing I would recommend. But to be honest, I just like live life, and I didn't check reviews at all while I was there. I think that's just like hindsight, but still, like, no regrets. So yeah, Uluwatu is incredible. And then because I was hanging out with this guy from England, he was actually the one that recommended me to go to Canggu. I said, what's Canggu? Bro, when I tell you I did no research, like, I don't know. I don't even know where I was in the globe. I found out 2 weeks in, I was that close to Australia. I said, what the fuck? Because everyone was like, you should go to Australia if you're down here. I said, where's Oz? They're like, beneath us. Like, it's a 3-hour flight. I said, what? I did not pay attention in geography class. I've always been honest about that. Like, it is what it is. I was there for social hour. You know, I didn't care about school at all. No regrets still. But now that I'm traveling the world, I do find it more interesting to learn about things. So now I know Australia is right below Bali and very close. So you can fly to Perth in like 3 hours, Sydney 5. There you go. That's what I learned. Anyway, so he says, you should go to Canggu, Bali. That's where I spent a lot of my time, and I enjoyed it. I said, I don't know what Canggu is, babe. I'm going to pull up. He ends up flying back to England. So sad. And I end up booking a stay in Canggu. I show up. As soon as I'm driving into the city, well, being driven into the city, I'm not driving. I'm like, what the fuck? I start seeing all these beautiful humans every which way. Men's got their shirts off, all these Aussies, they're jacked, they got headphones on, they're just driving these bikes. I said, what the fuck? Have I just signed up for the cast of Love Island? And I didn't know about it. Honest to God, if you're single and you want to mingle, I'm going to need you to book a flight to specifically Canggu, Bali, because that's where you go mingle. I'm telling you, some of the most beautiful people I've ever seen in my life. It's like all the most beautiful people in the world are just like, let's go to Canggu, Bali. And that's what happens. On top of that, there is the cutest cafes, the cutest restaurants. It's definitely the most westernized part of Bali. So there's a lot of like very cool modern aesthetic places and villas, and like it's a vibe. I have heard, you know, obviously I've traveled with a lot of different people at this point and spoken to a lot of people about all the places that I've been. Mixed reviews on Canggu because it is carnage. It is a bit like chaos and busy, and there's a lot of traffic because it is the most, I think, populated city in Bali. Don't quote me on that, but I'm guessing it is. Some people get overstimulated and they don't like it. However, there are like little areas that you can stay in that are quieter or on the outskirts, but Canggu was by far, I would say my favorite for sure. Like Uluwatu is now a close second, right? But it was just so much fun. There was something to do every day, something to see, concerts for $20. The clubs were unreal. Like the hotel choices, you just had so much choice. The cafes, like probably 2 times a day at least, I would eat a meal and be like, this meal changed my life because of how good the food was. One thing about the food in Bali is it's not processed to shit like in North America, okay? I always knew our food was shit. And that's something that I've been looking into, nutrition, educating myself. And, you know, I downloaded the Yucca app, which scans all your beauty products and your food products, which tells you, you know, if they're hazardous and whatnot. That was something I was already really interested in before going to Bali. But after eating so much food and different types of food in Bali and feeling amazing, I actually lost weight. I think I lost like 15 pounds. Well, just from being there. And I didn't work out. I think I gymmed 1 out of the 12 weeks, and I'm usually an avid gym goer, like at least 5-6 times a week. That's my thing. But I just didn't feel like I wanted to, and that's not what I was there for. And I listened to my body, and it's just crazy because of how fresh the food is. And there's not all these chemicals in it. It's healthier. You feel better. Your skin is better. Fun fact, I ran out of my skincare that I was using. My skin was glowing, guys. I don't know. It just like really made me think like we're being sold all these, you know, products. Like consumerism and capitalism is all this fucking country's built on. And for what? Like I was thriving mentally, spiritually, physically in a place where I was just living out of my suitcase in a hotel, ran out of my skincare, not the cleanest water I was showering in or washing my face in. And I was thriving. Absolutely thriving. So I found that interesting. Yeah. I really want to like get into more of that stuff because that is like, yeah, it just fascinates me. Like yeah. We'll save that for another episode because this will be 7 years long if I go into that right now. So I check into Canggu, Bali, and I check into this guest house. So there's a couple places that are like guest houses where the people live on the property, like the Balinese live there, but then they built other rooms. Sometimes it's like a Balinese style house, and sometimes it's actually more like a hotel or a hostel vibe. So I stayed at this place and I ended up meeting girls that were staying there and also living there. And we formed this really cool girl gang and just became amazing friends. And that is when I started to really, really notice a difference in my mental health, because at that point I had leaned in to the process of it being difficult and just being like, I think that this is meant to be hard. I don't think this was ever meant to be easy. I think I was meant to struggle and meant to purge. And also I started to have this community of girls and these people that I felt like I could rely on and have dinners with and go to the beach with, and I felt significantly less alone. So that is the turning point for me, which was about 3-4 weeks in of my trip, where I was like, no, this is it. Like I'm starting to have fun. And then I started exploring, you know, more restaurants and clubs, and I had such a good time, honestly, like such a good experience clubbing sober in Bali for myself, because you just know when to tap out. I know when to tap out when the energy is getting too low and the vibration's like way too low, because obviously as people drink, like it lowers your internal energy and your vibration as a human. So around like 1 and everyone's like super drunk, I usually tap out because I'm like, oh, this energy is not the vibe anymore. But up until then, I just had a blast. I was just the most hydrated bitch in the club, and I would be shutting it down and just had so much fun. And I think too, like dance is such a beautiful way to express yourself, to gain confidence, to move emotion around the body, and to just like let go, release your inhibitions, feel the rain on your skin. Like it's such a good time. And for me, some of my favorite styles of music is R&B, Afro, and piano, all that. So I was chasing any type of Afro event and finding the best ones. So I ended up like locking in on some of the best Afro events. And that's really the only times I would go out. I wouldn't go to listen to like techno or EDM. It wasn't my vibe. I think I did one event that was an EDM DJ or two in Savaya, Bali. That was really beautiful. Very cool club right on the Indian Ocean. The coolest club in Asia. Google it. Savaya with an S. So dope. I actually went there for my birthday. But aside from that, for the most part, I did Afro events. So it's just a different vibe. Like, and then they have dance circles. So I got pulled into some dance circles, and it just really, to go to a club sober and then to be pulled into a dance circle is like a different level of confidence you have to do that. Like, I am a fairly confident person. It depends on the day, I think. Like, if I'm having a low day, I'm like, what the fuck? But if I'm having a good day, forget about it. Like, you can't tell me shit. I'm the best. But it takes a lot. It takes a lot. And there was a couple of times that I did go alone, which is a different level of, strength and courageousness. But it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. And I just really felt like it awoke a different part of me, like a more confident woman. I don't know. It was just like it was so beautiful, guys. I just feel like I was just kind of getting in touch with my feminine energy again, because I've been hella in my masculine, because I'm a boss ass bitch and I have to protect myself. I got no man to rely on. Like, I'm doing it all myself, right? So it was really cool to just see that side of myself, and oh my God, it was so beautiful. I loved it. Oh my God, I miss it. Wow. Anyway, so I'm having a good time. I make these friends, and then I have this really interesting story to share with you, actually. So before I went to Bali, I knew I needed to scream. I don't know if you guys have done scream therapy before. I've not. I've heard of it, but I just knew I needed to scream. Since I was young, I feel like I have needed to scream. I feel like I have a lot of anger and pain that has been stored up in my body and my chakras for a very long time, but I kind of thought it was cringe. Honestly, like I was like, I can't just, that's so weird, bro. Like, I would like ick my own self out. And also I was scared of what would come out of me. And right before I went to Bali, I was having so many technical issues. Like the podcast I was like, what the fuck? Do I quit the podcast? Because I kept losing episodes. Nothing was recording. My TV randomly broke. My phone wasn't working. My air fryer stopped working. Like my car stopped turning on. Like, it was like everything I touched was not working, and it was creeping me out to a point of like, okay, what is this? And I had an energy clearing appointment, and she was like, your anger that you have towards specifically your father is affecting the frequencies around you. And I was like, whoa. She's like, you need to release it. You need to scream. And she also taught me this other movement. Basically, she explained it physically, like holding onto a tennis racket with two arms and like hitting like a bed or a pillow or something. Like that movement really releases a lot of anger. I said, interesting. So I'm in Bali and I have this in the back of my mind, right? I'm like, oh, I know I need to scream at some point, but I'm not thinking about it because I'm just having a good time eating tacos and living life. So I'm out for dinner with these girls that I had met at the guest house that I was staying in. And we're having these beautiful, intricate conversations about, childhood and pain and friendships and all these things, right? Just like my kind of shit. That's the one thing I will say too about travel in general, but especially in Bali, because a lot of people go there to eat, pray, love. You will meet so many people that are ready and willing and have the capacity to have authentic and beautiful conversations. Whereas like in Vancouver, you may get that once in a blue moon. I think I get it more than most because of my brand being mental health awareness, that I get to have these really cool conversations with people at events. But for the most part, it's just, what up? You good? Yeah, cool. How about this weather? Like, it's just very surface. And I think that's one of the leading reasons why I won't be in North America for very long, because it's just, there's not enough depth. So we're just having these conversations because that's just conversations you have with people you meet in Bali. You talk about the real shit, There's no like regular life distractions and there's no expectations. You just are who you are. It's really cool, honestly. And there's like, yeah, it's just beautiful. So anyway, we're having these beautiful heart to hearts, right? The dinner's lovely. Everything's great. And then my friend, she's talking about her story. And then she's like, and then I did somatic healing or somatic therapy. And right after she says that, we don't realize that's the last thing she said until after, but I start getting really lightheaded and dizzy. And for me, that's quite normal. Because of my vertigo, once in a while I'll have like a vertigo spell. So I was like, oh, I feel really, really dizzy. Let me just go like get some fresh air. So I'm drinking my water and then I go out front and then it gets progressively worse. And I'm like, what is happening right now? So I start kind of having a panic attack and I start to not being able to feel my hands. So I can't feel my hands. And at this point, I don't realize it's a panic attack. I honestly think I've been roofied because I have been roofied before, unfortunately. And one of the symptoms is you lose your motor skills and you start to like disconnect from your body. So I was like, maybe I've been roofied. Like genuinely, I did not think panic attack. I thought roofie first for the first 10 minutes of it because of how bad it was. And because I felt so disconnected from my body. I'm like, I can't feel my hands. I'm numb. Like I'm freaking out, right? So my friends like pay the bill. They come out, they bring me water. They brought me out like a washcloth. I'm sitting in like this alleyway, rocking back and forth, just fucking bawling my eyes out. Like I put my head in between my knees and I'm like weeping, absolutely weeping. I'm shaking. It makes me emotional thinking about it. I was not roofied. I was actually having a somatic release. Now that looking back on it, it's interesting that when she said that, I'd not heard about that type of therapy before, but it was literally a somatic release. And my friends looked at me and they're like, you need to scream. We're taking you to the beach to scream. Because like my throat, I just kept grabbing it. I'm like, it feels like something's stuck. It feels like something's stuck. But not in a choking way. Not like I had eaten something, piece of steak, and it gotten stuck. It was like very spiritual. So they take me down to the beach and I'm like, I can't do it. I don't want to scream. I can't. And before I had come on my trip, when I got really frustrated with technology not working, I did scream briefly and I scared the shit out of myself because it just felt dark and it felt evil and I didn't like it. Also, screaming is one of my biggest triggers because of my abusive childhood. Like it was just like a choir of screaming my whole life and I hated it. It was obviously my siblings and people that I love that were, you know, being abused and in danger. So for me, screaming, especially children, I'm real, like, it's like, I'll start shaking. It's just like a physical response. So I was scared and I was like, what if the police come? And they're like, there's no police in Bali. Oh my God, shut the fuck up. Just scream, bitch. I'm like, okay. So they held my hands, one on either side. And they're like, we're going to do it with you. And they forced me to scream. And it was beautiful. And it lasted like 2 hours of me just like releasing, like just crying, sweating, screaming, wild. It's crazy to me that, you know, if you choose not to let your emotions be felt, like they will just wreak havoc until they fucking seep out of you. Like let yourself feel, because if you don't, like trapped emotion is proven to cause so many diseases, cancers, things like that. Like let your emotions out. I promise it will do so much more damage to you long term if you don't. And it was just like, yeah, the perfect storm. My body was like, it's time. She said somatic and my body really reacted to that. So that was really, it was a wild experience, but beautiful. And then after I'd cried, I'm like, let's go dancing. Let's go move. And then we did. We went and got ice cream and then we went out to the club and we danced and I felt amazing and I felt good. And yeah, it was really, really beautiful. I've not shared that story with anyone yet, actually, because it was just so powerful, but I was planning on saving it for the podcast because how wild is that though? Like my body just knew I needed to release. That was my first really big release. That was honestly the first time I'd ever felt anything like that. Like I've had panic attacks before, you know, vertigo spells, all those things, but not anything like that. Like that was wild, but it was beautiful because the way I felt afterwards, like so light, so much better. And then I just felt like I came to terms with the fact that I can't keep holding this in. But if you feel like you need to scream, fucking scream. If you feel like you need to break something, go to a rec room and throw shit around and toss it. Go to the gym, fucking run your heart out on the treadmill, lift some weights, like move your body. Like that is the best way to help process emotions and feel them because it helps move your, you know, your emotions around in your body. So that was amazing and unexpected. It's so interesting because When I first, got to Bali, I thought I was going to have this really cool, like spiritual retreat in the middle of the jungle by myself. And I was going to feel all these amazing things. And then that's what I would look back on and be like, that's what healed me. But really, it was all of these micro moments of clubbing and singing throwbacks with hundreds of strangers at the top of our lungs and laughing till we fucking cried. It was me having these moments on the back of a Grab driver's bike of just like, wow, I'm really here and I'm really doing it and I'm really impressing myself. It's recovering from Bali belly and any illness that I had by myself and knowing exactly what I need to do to take care of myself. And if not, figuring it out. It happened. My whole healing experience happened in all these micro moments. It was, meeting women and men and humans and having these really cool and amazing authentic connections and conversations with them. It was making friends for life. It was creating attachments and letting go of attachments that didn't serve me. It was putting myself first and practicing fucking self-loyalty. And I think that's what's cool about solo travel is sure, you connect with all these people, but at the end of the day, you're alone. And if you need to tap out, you can, and you don't owe anybody anything. Like there are so many times where I was like, I'm not feeling like going out tonight. Have a great night. And I have no guilt. I don't owe these people anything. I've just met them. So I think that's what's so cool for me. And obviously, having borderline personality disorder, we do have severe abandonment issues. So for me, practicing non-attachment, especially in any relation that I had with, men and stuff, I would just be like, yeah, cool. We're having fun. Maybe we're going out for dinner and that's that. But and then just allowing it to be because I'm not looking to date or for anything serious, right? I know that. So for me, everything that I met was just casual or just fun or just flingy. Like that's all I wanted it to be. But my mind, because of that disorder, it's hard for me, even with friendships, even with just the fact of constantly traveling, you have a revolving door of people coming and going. So you're constantly saying, hello, oh my God, I love you for this reason. And goodbye, hello, goodbye. And the fact of the matter is, yes, you can have these connections with people and keep up, but you don't really get that opportunity. Again, it's really rare to stay that much in contact with people that you met when you're traveling. I have a handful of people that I'm close with and we still connect, but it's hard. You're in different time zones. You go back to your regular life. People lose touch and they move on. So it's cool in one hand and then the other, it's quite difficult, but I really love a good challenge, especially when it helps me evolve or helps me, learn these skills to cope with my mental health. So for me, it was a very we're practicing non-attachment and we're putting in energy that is putting, energy back into us. It's not me always making the plans, me checking in on everyone because I'm really good at that and I'm really big on that. And something I've needed to do and was a goal of mine this year was to not shrink my energy down to match others, but not putting in more than it's given to me because I find I can overgive and overshare and overlove and not get it in return. And that can be really hurtful to me. And I noticed that by removing energy that's not being reciprocated, I have a lot more for myself and for the people that do put in the energy required to have access to me. So that was a really cool lesson too. And just the child version of me that comes out when you get to explore and eat what you want and have fun and go to a beach and play in the waves and go dance till you're sweaty and tired and then go home by yourself. And just there was so many nights where I would drive my bike to the club and either meet up with friends or go by myself and just make friends there and dance my ass off and then just leave absolutely drenched. One thing about Bali, it's hot as fuck. It's damp and it's heavy. So you just stay warm. I rarely wore my hair down in Bali. You can't wear pants. I think I brought a spring jacket and one pair of sweatpants just in case. And you can't wear pants in Bali unless they're super thin and linen. It's just so fucking hot. But yeah, I would just leave the club sweaty and just listen to my music on the bike and go home and just be damn, I could actually feel myself vibrating at a higher frequency. I could feel myself leveling up as the trip went on, which was wild. I've actually never felt that before. I think like over periods of time, maybe I'm just like, oh, I feel like I've elevated to a new level of like consciousness or, vibration or knowledge, collectively. But because I think there was so much growth happening in such a short amount of time that I was noticing it more than I would in regular life. And I've said this before about solo travel too, but I feel like it speeds up so many things. Like it's weird because you slow down and you disconnect from, your regular life and the regular world per se. Because it does feel like you're in a different realm when you're in Bali or Southeast Asia in general, very different to where I'm from. So you slow down, but it also speeds up because you spend a day with someone, you spend a day fully engaged, immersing in really cool, like intentional activities. Like you both don't have distractions from the outside world for the most part. I mean, you do come across some people that are living in Bali and they are working and that is their life. But for the most part, you're meeting people that are traveling and looking for these really cool soulful connections and experiences. So everyone's like very present and very aware of like what they're there for. It's so interesting. And I feel like people were really honest too. So you hang out with someone, for a day, you feel like you've known them for years, and you hang out with people or travel with them for a month and it feels like a lifetime, honestly. So I often say, I know I was gone for 3 months, which is a significant amount of time, but it feels like I've lived 7 years, genuinely. Like when I went to go leave Bali eventually, like I bawled my eyes out. Obviously, I was sad to leave, of course, but the main piece of it was looking back on who arrived in Bali, like that girl that got here and got sick and went through all this stuff. Like it wasn't me anymore. And so I shed that older version of myself that I was leaving there. It's so weird to like say that and trying to explain it, but like, yeah, it just felt like I was shedding a version of me that I would never get back and never see again. And although that's so beautiful, it was kind of sad too, The other piece of my trip and being, in Canggu was meeting the locals and connecting with the locals. That was amazing. Because I stayed in Canggu for so long, I ended up staying a month. And then I ended up doing some more traveling around Bali. And then I came back to Canggu for another couple of weeks because it was just my fave, right? So by doing that, I would go to the same beach for the most part. Like I would switch it up once in a while, but there's this beach called Times Beach in Bali, and they've just got like cozy beanbag chairs and cute umbrellas and lights, and they have a really good restaurant, like it's a warung, and it's also on the beach, so it's a great place to watch sunsets. They've got like a blow up movie screen they do every other Tuesday night, and like a popcorn maker. Like it's just such a vibe, and a lot of people that live there and visit there often go to that beach. Like it's just such a good time. It's a great way to meet people too. And then, I met a lot of local women, some local men too, but for the most part, it was the local women that were selling beaded bracelets and massages and sarongs and things like that. And that's their job. That's their livelihood. That's how they make their income. So I met a handful of women on that beach over the time that I was there, but no one was quite like my girl, Maya. So I met Maya probably the first week of being in Canggu. She came up to me and she was trying to sell me some bracelets or something. And I said, do you know anyone who does massages? Because I knew in Vietnam, like a lot of the locals would sell massages, which I just loved getting massage on the beach. Like there is no better thing. And she goes, I have like oil I can do. And I was like, okay, let's do it. And she tried to give me a price. And I was like, no, I was like, I'll barter with you. And I was like, I'll tell you what, if you give me a good deal, I'll come back every single day. And she was like, okay. And something about her was different. I just really connected with her, and she could speak a decent amount of English. She was actually getting better the more we chatted, but she was just lovely. And she just gave off this really beautiful maternal vibe, which I was craving at the time, obviously. And it was just a beautiful connection. So I became really close with her, like really close. And then the other local women, obviously too, they would come and hang out with me and shoot the shit with me. And I would tell them about my journey, and I would tell them about, people that I was meeting and like all these funny stories, like my men stories that were happening. And they were so invested. They were like, tell me more. Tell me about this. Like, it was hilarious. Like, and I was giving them the R-rated version. I'm not even giving y'all the R-rated version, but they got the R-rated version. Okay. So I just became good friends with them. It was just very wholesome and amazing. And at one point, She actually introduced her daughter to me. And if you, were following along on Instagram, I posted with her IU. She's such a sweetheart. And our first meeting was pretty spectacular. I was hanging out with this guy from Brazil. We were just hanging out on the beach that day. And I was like, oh, this is my, my favorite local here. And, she came over and gave me a massage, and she's like, my daughter's coming. I was like, I would love to meet her. And so I met her, and I ended up gifting her a bracelet. And she was just like, oh my God, like so, in shock and grateful. And I offered to get them something to eat, and she asked for ice cream. And it was the cutest thing because I ordered her ice cream. It was like ice cream and brownie. And the server gave it to her. And the first thing she did was offer me a bite and my friend a bite. And I bawled. Like, it was just that simple. Like, they barely have anything. Like, the poverty rate is wild there. And I want to talk about it a bit more because I want there to be more awareness, especially if you're visiting there. Like, please tip, please give money to the locals. Like, please help out in any way. Like, they are a lot more poor than I think people understand, because obviously when you're in the touristy areas, you can kind of disconnect from that and you don't see how bad it really is. But these people are not making very much money. And so it was intense to see someone with so little, be offered a treat like that, which is a special thing. I don't imagine they get to have that often. And the first thing she did was offer it to me. And I just that was so much for me. So I had this huge hug with her. We ended up dancing on the beach, took videos of each other. She spoke a little bit of English. She understood me more than she could speak it back. So we just had the funnest time trying to figure that out. I think she's 7 or 8. I forget. I think 7 or 8. So that became my little Balinese family, and Maya and I got to know each other really well and connect. And she told me about her life and her husband and her marriage and how long she's been married. And they get married really young there, which is intense. It makes me really grateful for not being married. One, and not feeling the pressure of in our culture to get married super young. Really grateful for that, because, oh my God, the version of me that would have been married at that age, pardon? No. That would have been chaotic. And who the fuck would I have married? Oh my God, that's so scary. Anyway, so yeah, we just got really close, and I asked if I could come over and bring them dinner. And she said, I'm really embarrassed for you to see my house. And I was like, oh, I'm not there to judge. I'm just there to help in any way and just educate myself too. I said, this is a very different country than my country, and I just want to learn more. I want to know how you guys live. I want to know what the lifestyle is like. I want, just teach me. So I said, maybe I can bring pizza, or we can order pizza. And because IU's favorite thing is pizza, the little girl. So that was their request. And I said, no problem. So I show up, and I mentally going into it, I'm like, I think it's going to be bad. I think it's going to be bad. Guys, it was significantly worse than I was prepared for. And it took everything in me to hide my reaction, because of course I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but it is brick walls, dirty, just barely anything. There's no couch. There's just a rug. They have 2 beds and 2 bedrooms. There's 6 people living there. It's just bare minimum. It's bare minimum, and no doors. It's intense. It is intense, and it made me check my fucking privilege and all of our privilege, especially coming from, this side of the world and having what we do, and just being able to pick which type of fucking filtered water we want, or being frustrated if our, delivery for our groceries is late. It's just wild, the problems that we have versus them. So yeah, it was very sad. So I actually took them to the grocery store, and I was like, please just get anything you want, on me. Please just let me, help you in any way. And I don't say that to be oh, look at me, I did something nice while I was there. I just say that because I want other people to be inspired by doing that. Random acts of kindness, they can go a long way. And these people need it, man. They fucking need it. They have barely anything. They don't make a lot of money. Sometimes Maya would tell me she sold nothing that day. And her husband sells fake tattoos at a different beach. So that is their income. It's just sad. It's just sad. So anyway, took them to the grocery store. I let her pop off. She was so modest and just brought a few things to the counter. I said, Maya, please get more. I said, do you need shampoo, conditioner? What do you need? Please, I'll buy it all. And it's crazy because we got like a handful of things and it was still only like $25 Canadian. Like it's so cheap. It's so easy for us to go over there and do the most and it still not be that expensive, you know? So that felt really special for me to be able to be of service, you know, to them and spoil them in any way I could. So yeah, that was beautiful. And then they wanted pizza. That was their request. So we were trying to order it, but for some reason the app wasn't working. So I said, why don't I just take you to the restaurant and we go have like an in-person experience? That'd be fun. And IU was like, yes, restaurant. She really wanted to go. And they were a bit hesitant at first, but the app wasn't working for any of us. So we were like, I guess we got to go. So they requested Pizza Hut. So we pull up to this Pizza Hut and it's like me, Maya, her husband, their son, daughter, and then their niece as well. So there's all of us sitting at this booth and I'm just like, everyone order what you want. Like, please order like too much. Like, let's just have a feast and have the best time. So it's cute because the dad's recording everything the whole time. And I just think, oh my God, wholesome. Like he's just wanting to capture these moments. We finished the meal and Maya looks at me and she goes, thank you so much for this. This is our first time ever eating in a restaurant together. And I was like, oh my God. Like, it just like broke me. I'm like, holy shit. Like the things that we take for granted, like these people don't even have, like it's their first time. They've never been able to afford taking their children out to a restaurant, right? They've always just cooked at home. So that was like, the fact that I could do that for them felt so special for me, but it also just really shook me and made me very aware of, you know, how people are living and what they can and cannot afford. So that was very core memory for me. And I have a relationship with them at this point where if they need something, they know they can rely on me. So that night, you know, IU said, you know, Alyssa, I need a new backpack. Mine's broke. I said, I got you. The niece needed some shoes. No problem. Gave them some cash. And I ended up actually buying hundreds of bracelets from Maya and her friends at the beach. And I brought them back to sell with my jewelry company. So a lot of them are like semi-precious stones, tiger's eye, volcanic rock, things like that. I'm like, I've been wanting to expand into crystals as well. So it just felt perfect to be able to support them. And they're actually selling so well. So I'm going to need to order more soon, which I'm really excited to tell them. So that felt really cool. Like, woman to woman, like I recorded it all. I was just sitting on the beach with her and we had this like business talk. I'm like, okay, what's the best we can do for this amount, etc. And just shook hands on it, hugged. And it was really cool because I mean, that was obviously a huge sale for them and something really special for me to bring back from my trip and just have like a little piece of them and be able to share that with everyone here. It felt like the perfect thing to do, honestly. I love the locals. Honestly, one of my favorite parts of the trip was meeting the locals because I'm a very chatty person in general. So I love to be asking them questions. Like even when I got my nails and my lashes done, I asked them everything. I'm like, how does it feel to live, you know, in an island where it's been taken over by a lot of tourists? Like, how does that feel to have to share your culture and share your island with so many people that are not, you know, your people? Like, how does that feel? And for the most part, they don't mind it. You know, they do love meeting all these different cultures. They did have some things to say about 2 different cultures and countries of people where they're like, we don't like these people. But aside from that, everyone is really like polite and respectful for the most part. And yeah, it was just interesting to get their perspective and POV on the whole situation. But they're just lovely. Hey, absolutely lovely. Like even this regular cafe that I would go to, I made friends with the girls there and oh, they were just angels. It was just such a sweet thing to go in and be like, oh, hello. And she would call me her sister, my sister, how are you doing? Like those kind of connections. That's my shit, man. Like that's what I feel like I'm put on this earth for. Like I'm a very charismatic person. I like to connect with people. I like to, you know, embody authenticity and have these really amazing interactions with people. Like life is so short. Bro, don't talk to me about the weather. Like don't you dare, unless there's like a hurricane or something fascinating going on. Like to just be like, how about the weather? Like I'll walk away. Like I cannot do surface level conversations. So for me, Bali was amazing because it was all these immersive experiences with humans, you know, from the island or visiting the island, now living on the island, expats from other countries. It was just nonstop of that. And that was actually something I was reflecting on last night at my event. I feel like Vancouver is a very lonely city. Like there are tons of people here and you can have tons of interactions in a day, but it's very lonely. Like the only time I felt lonely in Bali was when I was physically alone. Never when I was with other people, because there was always so much like mentorship or learning or questions or things to talk about that were of substance and importance to me. So yeah, that's a really hard thing to be back and adjusting for sure. I'll save that till the end of the episode to go into it in more detail. But honestly, guys, it was life-changing. Anyone who is going to Bali, let me know. I can give you all the best recommendations. I can give you the do's, the don'ts, everything you need to know, because it is an incredible experience. It truly is, especially if you're really surrendering to the fact that yes, it's going to be a purging experience. You're going to learn things. You're going to meet new people. You're going to be frustrated. You're going to be stressed. You're going to be excited and hopeful and healed and all these things. Like you just have to lean into the fact that it is going to have its challenges, but it's totally going to be worth it. And I know because I put in the fucking footwork for this shit, okay? So outrageous little story for you. It was honestly becoming a joke at this point on Instagram because I was like, okay, here's my illness of the week or something would happen. Like I literally was offered a member's discount at the hospital, okay? That was one of my core memories. I was keeping a list of all my core memories in my notes on my phone. And one of my core memories was getting 10% off members discount at the fucking hospital. I don't know why. Was I meant to purge everything? I don't know. I don't know. Is it just mixing with travel and new country and new bacteria? I don't know. Is it just me? I don't know. Will everyone get this sick? Hopefully not, because it was outrageous. So this is so funny. This is like the funniest medical story. Now, it was not funny at the time, okay? So I'm like at my friend's house, I'm grabbing a dress for the night out because I'm like sick of my clothes, right? Like after so long of traveling, you're just like, oh, I don't want to wear the same thing. First world problems. So I go over to her house and I grab a dress, and I remember when I was pulling my bike in, because I drove a bike while I was there. Like I confidently can drive a bike. The traffic is wild, but it just flows. It just works. It's a give and take. You got to have rhythm. If you're nervous to be on the bike, get off the fucking bike. Part of the reason why people crash is because they're nervous. You got to lean into it. But if you're nervous, like, please stop. Please stop. Like, don't be riding the bikes. Okay. So I was trying to pull in to park at my friend's house, and she's like, pull up here. And I was like, oh, I don't like that because it's going to be tricky for me to back out of. And she's like, no, you'll be fine. And I was like, okay. So I pull up, I go in, I get a dress, and I leave, and I go to back my bike out. Trigger warning, gore. If you don't want to listen to this, skip ahead a couple minutes. So the kickstand of my bike gets wedged into the side of my big toenail, like the right side of my big toenail, right on the edge. It gets wedged. I panic because, so basically when you're going to back up a bike, you kind of like lean it off the kickstand for a minute. I don't kick it up until I'm about to go back, but I had just taken like 2 steps backwards. The kickstand kind of hit the side of my toenail, wedged a bit. I panicked and dropped the bike. So the fucking entire bike weight went and like popped my toenail. So I'm in shock. I actually wasn't in pain at first. The pain didn't hit. I was just in shock. I said, maybe it's okay. I was delusional too. And I looked down and I'm like fucking squirting blood. My toenail is now headed in a different direction than it should have been going. I'm like, oh no. It's like completely shifted to the left, but still hanging on for dear life. And I was like, what the absolute fuck? So I'm like, then the pain hit, like the pain just went, and I'm like, oh my God. So I'm like, somebody help me. I'm like screaming. I like hobble into the guest house. I'm like screaming. I'm like, my friends' names that are living there. I'm just like, someone help. I start going up the stairs. There's like a pool of blood just falling behind me, just so dramatic. And then my friends come out. Well, the whole entire guest house came out because I was screaming. And yeah, I'm just like gushing blood. My toenail's hanging on for dear life. And my friend immediately takes me to the hospital. I do love how casual Bali is, but in a time of crisis, my God. So we show up to the first clinic and they're like, the doctor's not in. I'm like, but why? Like, why? What do you mean? Like, where is he gone? Like, where's the doctor from? They're like, we have no idea, but you can try a different clinic. So I'm like, okay. So at this point, my friend's like, I'm terrified to drive you because of the luck you're having. And I don't want to be the reason you get harmed more. So I'm going to drive. I'm ordering you a Grab. So I'm on the back of this Grab in a dress with my swimsuit on underneath. My fucking foot, I'm like holding on to it for dear life. I'm making sure he understands, like, don't bump me. Don't bump me. Like, please be careful because, like, I will die. I will die at this point. So he's driving me. We go to a second clinic. It's not open. I'm just like, okay, it's okay. We go to a third clinic. And they're like, oh, welcome. I'm like, do you have a doctor here? They're like, yep, we have a doctor. There's no one else in the hospital. Thank God. It's like literally just me. They're like, what seems to be the problem? I was like, it seems to me my toenail is trying to escape my body without my consent. They give me paperwork. I said, fam, can I just give you my name real quick? And then we could just like maybe do paperwork after. Hey, because I'm just like gushing blood everywhere. If we could just maybe like, they're so cute. They're so casual though. I'm just like, guys. So they put me in the bed. And they're like, so basically what we have to do is we have to remove the toenail so that it will grow back. I said, but you swear I'm going to have a toenail? They're like, yes. I was like, so what's the procedure like? Is it painful? She's like, it's extremely painful. I'll be honest with you, but we do freeze it. I said, all right, give me that freezing. Give me some freezing in the head too. Like freeze me up. I want to be froze. Like, I don't want to feel none of this. This has already been so traumatic. So I'm laying there like laughing, crying. Like I'm having moments of, haha, this is so funny. And then I'm like, am I meant to die in Bali? Like, what's going to happen? Because at this point, I had Bali belly once. I had a sinus infection in Uluwatu so bad. It was like a week and a half. I was like, disgusting. I'd almost drowned. And now my toenail was leaving me for life. So she's like, no problem. We'll freeze it. I said, talk to me about the pain level of the needle going in under my toe bed, like the toenail bed. And she's like, yeah, it's pretty brutal, I'll be honest. And I was like, okay. I do love the honesty here. We do love the honesty. I said, so I have some mental health issues for sure. So I'm wondering if we could maybe get me a sedative so that if things get, really bad, we just knock me unconscious. Like, just knock me out. Just take me out. Keep me out for a day. Put me in a coma. I don't care. Like, I don't want to be here if it's going to be this bad. So they actually did get a sedative brought in from another hospital before they started the procedure because I was very adamant. I don't know what it's going to be like. And I don't know like Asia's medical protocol, right? So I'm just like, what the fuck? So she starts putting the needle in. Okay. It's 7 years long. Obviously it's like the biggest needle I've ever seen in the fucking world. Looks like something that is in space, fucking a satellite dish poker thing. It's huge, right? So she puts it in underneath my toenail and I scream. I'm like shaking. My friend is like laying on top of me trying to keep me like calm down because I'm just like pulling at it's so hard to manage pain like that. It's very, very hard. I have a high pain tolerance, but that kind of pain, like it's excruciating, but it makes sense. They used to use it as a form of torture, like pulling people's toenails off. Yeah, but if someone was withholding the truth, for sure they would tell you in 10 seconds. For sure. That would work. Let me tell you, I'm about to out everyone. Like, fucking, what do you need me to say? Like, fuck. I begged the doctor not to do it. I was like, I think we should leave it where it is. I think I'm meant to keep this toenail. I'm feeling good about that. She goes, you'll never, if you keep it on, one, you risk it getting caught on something. And two, like, it could not grow back. Like, I would highly recommend you take it off. So she tries to freeze me. She puts in 3 needles. The needles are excruciating. Then she tries to yank. Okay. So she's trimmed down the part that's lifting and then she's yanking. And I'm just like, oh, bro, like it felt she ripped my soul out. I felt she ripped my soul out. The freezing wasn't working. She goes, I've not seen this before. I said, no, you haven't, because I'm a medical mystery. So she does it again. By the end, she's given me 7 needles. Okay. Each needle is a different type of hoe. Finally, we are frozen after 7 needles. Most people need 3, okay? Just for the record. But the pulling, just like, because you still feel pressure, right? Like you don't feel as much pain, but you do feel the pressure. So I'm just like, where am I supposed to be looking? What am I supposed to be doing with my, like, I'm just shaking. Like my whole body's trembling. I'm fucking twitching. I have no idea. It was like the first time in a long time that I was like, okay, if there was vodka here, I would love to chug it. And I am sober. I'm, sober 2.5 years. I would not drink again. Like that's a vow I've made to myself. I don't feel the need or the want to drink, but it just was such an uncomfortable situation and super painful and scary that I was just like, that's just something I would have used in past. I do not drink, bless. But they did give me pain medication, multiples, because I was like, no, up it. So by the time I was out of there, I had 9 toenails and I was loopy, bro. I was like, this life ain't so bad. I said, we out here, we in Bali, let's go shut down the club like we were meant to, because we were meant to meet up with our friends that night and go to the club. This is so funny. I'm having flashbacks. And so we leave the hospital. My friend's like, I feel traumatized because I've never seen a human in that much pain, and to not be able to help you was a lot. I said, girl, I've appreciated everything you've done. Let's go to the club. And she was like, what the fuck? And I was like, no, I'm down. Like, the toe's wrapped up. I'm highly medicated on pain meds. And at that point, I was dissociative as well because of how much pain I was in. My brain just said, we go and check out. So I was checked out and I was on pain meds. So I was sky high. So we went out for Mexican. There is like such a good vibe, hey, when you're high on pain meds. Out at Mexican, the music's hitting a little different. You have fucking enchiladas and some soda water with lime. It was a good time. My toe is bandaged. It's like the size of my fist. Like, they just put so much bandage on it. I said, nothing could happen to me at this point. I'm so protected. It's like, it's fine. So we have our Mexican food. It's the best ever, literally. And then we go and we shut down a club called Luigi's, which is a pizza joint. And they're really known for their pizza. And then at the end of the day, on Mondays, it turns into a club and it's like a rave and it's really cool. It's out back. So we met up with a bunch of friends. I let everyone know about my toe situation, and then everyone kind of danced around me, like in a circle, to keep my foot protected, just from anyone drunk stepping on it, of course. I think that would have significantly hurt me. But yeah, it was so much fun, honestly. And it was just me. At that point, I just owned it, and it was just a big LOL. Like, I was like, this is what it's going to be. Is Bali, like, just throwing me through the ringer? Yes. Am I still having the best time? Yes, because my mindset was so different. And I was like, maybe we needed, only 9 toenails. Maybe we needed to purge it. Maybe I had some energy under there that just needed to get gone. I don't fucking know. At this point, I'm just like, I'm leaning into whatever someone's telling me it's happening for, because I just need to cope. So the only bummer, honestly, the biggest bummer with that was just not being able to swim for 3 weeks. That was tricky, and just obviously hobbling about. But the pain itself it was only really painful the first 2 days, I'd say. And then it was more so just me being fearful of like hitting anything on it or someone stepping on it. That was like, that would obviously hurt me, but it wasn't too bad. After like the initial ripping of the toenail and, dropping the bite, a couple days later, I was totally fine. And then I started bandaging it myself. I was also really freaked out to see it, but it was just normal. It just looks like a toe, just with no nail. It's interesting. It almost kind of looks like the nail's still there because of the indent the nail left of being there. Do you know what I mean? So it's been like a couple months and I've not seen any sign of a toenail growing back, which concerns me a little bit, but I have read that it can take up to 1.5 years. I'm like, okay, dramatic, but okay. Like, what if it's not that important for us to have toenails for survival? Like, why do we have them? If you're going to take a whole 1.5 years to grow back, like, why do we have them in the first place? I've got questions. But anyway, that was one of the funniest medical stories. Definitely. I'm trying to think of what else happened. Ooh, we definitely had like a little robbery situation. So I was driving the bike one night in Uluwatu. My friend from London was on the back. He had given me one of his AirPods, and he was listening to the other. And we were jamming out to Stormzy, and he was being my GPS. So he's like, go left, go right. We're leaving the club one night. It's like 8 p.m. It starts to rain and it's quite dark. So I'm like super focused, but we're listening to music and having a good time. I noticed somebody coming up on the bike behind me, and he's really close to me. And I was like, okay, like pass me. You know what I mean? Like, what's your deal? All of a sudden I feel the bike shake a bit. And then all of a sudden my friend was like, he just stole my phone. He just stole my fucking phone. And I was like, what? This was wild. I've not had this happen before, but I've been warned when you're traveling anywhere, like you can obviously get pickpocketed. That's like a thing, but it felt wild to have it happen to someone next to me, and luckily not me, but still I felt so bad. And he was like, chase after him. And I was like, dude, it's like, we don't have helmets. We didn't bring helmets that night because we were like, our hair was looking real good. If you're listening to this, please wear a helmet. But like, I didn't that night. But anyway, And it was pouring rain and he was fast, right? He was a local, so he just sped off. I'm like, there's no way. And he's like, call the police. I said, babe, there's no police. What do you mean, call the police? So we got back to our hotel and we did fucking try to contact some police. We were like, hey, like, what's the number, emergency number? How do I contact police? He didn't know it. He didn't know it. He didn't know the number. He said, I don't know. Let me Google it. They didn't know the emergency number. And then he tried to call the police and they didn't answer. He goes, your best bet is to go to the police station in person. I said, what? Nah, bro, it's midnight. I'm not going to the police. This is crazy. I said to him, if you want to go, babe, you're on your own. I'll fully support you. But like, that's crazy. No. And it was crazy. It was his last night. So he was flying out the next day. But luckily he had an iPhone. So he had Mac. So everything was linked up to it, right? Oh my God. So he's like canceling his phone, locking everything, all that stuff, freaking out. It was a very shit last night for him, but it was wild. And that just made me be more mindful of my belongings and make sure your phone's like locked up. I would suggest wearing headphones when you're driving to let your GPS tell you where to go and keep your phone locked away, or get one of those straps with your, that can connect to your phone as a phone case. That's also a good idea. But that was pretty wild. There's just so many things that I was just like, holy shit. And then I ended up having another pretty bad cold. And then I ended up having food poisoning one night from fish. So I definitely stopped eating seafood while I was there for the remainder of the trip. And then I actually ended up having Bali belly a second time. Unreal. Okay? Unreal. So the first time when I had Bali belly, I was really curious. I was like, talk to me about Bali belly. Like, what is it? Obviously, can I get it again? Like, once I have it once, am I good for life? And she's like, we've seen an increased amount of cases in Bali belly this year, like more than ever before. I said, what the fuck? And she's like, there's 3 different types. There's bacterial, viral, and parasite. So there's 3 different types of Bali belly you can get. So if you get one of them, that does not ensure that you will not get the other types of Bali belly. So I knew that there was a risk, obviously, of me getting sick again. But this time it kind of came in reverse. It was like the bottom half of me first, and then I started puking a bit, but there wasn't so much puking the second time. But it was just like, honest to God, like I feel like my waist, like looking in the mirror the next day after being that sick, it shrunk like 3 inches. It was nuts because my entire intestines was cleaned out for sure. I lost everything. So I did have to text different doctors this time, and they came and gave me IV. And it was actually, I was supposed to be doing a visa run to Malaysia. So when you've been in Bali for as long as I had, like I had done the 30 days, I had asked to extend it, paid to extend it. So I was at my 60-day limit. You need to leave the country in order to fly back in to get another visa on arrival. There's no other way. So I had booked my flight to Malaysia, and then this was the night before. And I was like, bro, what are the statistics of this happening? Like, what are the chances of, because any of the other illnesses, like I could have flown with, I could have traveled with, right? But Bali belly and a flight, like, no way. And God bless me for trying, because I really did. Like, I woke up, I was delirious. I actually was hallucinating because of how much I was sweating. And because of how dehydrated I was having like leg seizures and cramps, like, Charlie horses in your calves. I don't know if other people call them that, but I do. It's when your like muscles just basically tighten and stretch, and it's so painful. I get on a grab, the back of a bike, because all I have is a fanny pack. Like, I'm planning on coming back. I'm leaving my stuff in my hotel. Like, I'm just doing a visa run, leaving the country and coming right back. He brings me to the airport. I'm in the airport and I'm tripping balls. Okay. I'm hallucinating for sure. I get up to immigration and they're like, where are you going? And I was like, I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't fly today. Can I change my flight? I'm like bawling. They take me back into security. The security comes over and they go, what is going on? I said, I have Bali belly. I'm so sick. I can't fly today. So I try to change my flight. I'm not able to. So I just ended up having to rebook it, but I just couldn't fly. And I did the visa run a couple days later, and given the process it was to do that, my flight was delayed by the time I got to Malaysia and back. I am so deeply grateful that I listened to my hallucinating ass body and did not fly on the day that I felt that sick. Cause what the fuck, that would have been so shit. So I end up going back to my hotel. I call the doctor. They come in 45 minutes. Okay. They really give a fuck about you there. I swear to God. I book a doctor. They're there. They went and got me toast from the restaurant in my hotel. They went above and beyond. And I think that that feels so special, especially if you are from Canada and you're used to being treated like dirt with our healthcare system. I understand that they're overworked and exhausted too, but it's just like, it's a vicious cycle, right? So for me, I felt like royalty, just getting all these IVs and having them be so kind and showing so much care and taking care of me. It was beautiful. So, and at this point I'm vetted. I'm like, I know what to expect. They gave me the antibiotics, we good, and had all my IVs. So I felt like I could breathe and function again. So I just rested for a couple of days and then ended up doing my visa run to Malaysia. Malaysia airport is really cool. And it actually made me want to stay, but I didn't bring any of my luggage. If I had, I probably would have stayed for at least a couple weeks. But I was like, you know what? I really just want to go back to Bali and stay longer. Like, I just want to extend it. I was having such a good time there. And I remember one of my friends, when I was debating going to Australia, because I was debating going to Australia while I was there, because I was so close, obviously, she's like, do you feel done with Bali? And I said, no. And then she goes, you have your answer. I was like, damn, I do. That's a good way of doing it. Like, immediately I was like, no, I don't. So I wanted to stay longer. So by doing my visa run, I was able to stay another month. And it was cool because I ended up doing all of the places that I had been twice, which was cool because I got a different experience each time. So the first time, you know, when I first landed, I went to Kuta and Seminyak area. I wouldn't do that again. But then I went to Ubud, and that was beautiful, tricky because the jungle situation. From there, I went to Uluwatu, almost drowned, had my sinus infection, but still had a riot, and then went to Canggu. And then I basically did those again in that order. So when I went to Canggu after my visa run, I ended up having a really interesting experience happen. And I definitely do want to talk about it one day. The day is not today. But I had something happen in Asia like that, just with another human, that really triggered me and really brought up a lot of my PTSD. And what's interesting about PTSD, all of those things, any type of trauma that's stored in the body, when it's stored there and you have something that triggers it, you sometimes feel basically like the aftershock of an earthquake is the same. Like, you feel the same trauma level of previous experiences, right? So my second time in Canggu wasn't as good because of this situation. So I ended up from there leaving to go to Ubud, back into the jungle, because I was like, I feel like I just need to sit by myself. I've had so much interaction and connection with people and nonstop really for the last little bit of time. Even for my birthday, it ended up having this really cool, we rented a massive villa and I had all my friends there. It was like 6 friends that I'd made, and we were all from different countries, which was super cool. And I've been clubbing lots and just going to concerts and just having the best time. But it was a lot of social, and it was a lot of, connection with other people. And I knew that I needed to sit with myself, and I knew that I needed to reflect. And I knew that after the specific situation happened, I needed to heal. And one thing I had started doing on this trip was, of course, journaling. I always recommend people journal. And I actually documented all my core memories on the trip, which was really cool. Core memory, if you haven't seen Inside Out, is basically like an iconic memory, like something that's going to stay with you and help shape like kind of who you are. And I had many core memories, many memories that I look back and I'm like, oof, I'll never forget that. So I was keeping record of all of those. But something else I did was I started recording voice notes and titling them like journal entries instead of writing. And it was really beautiful because when I got back, like on my flight home, I listened to all of them in order, and it was really cool to see and hear the growth in myself. And, you know, when I cried in the recording, I would cry in real life. It was just so cool. And I was just basically talking to me. And in one of the recordings, it was actually right before I had gone back to Ubud to be in the jungle by myself. And I was talking to me about how I felt about it. And I was not happy. And I knew it was something I needed to do, but I didn't want to do it. And I was crying because I was like, this is not how I seen this last month play out. I had, you know, different expectations. And I was really scared to be alone, you know. So I was not looking forward to it. And it's so interesting to me because I ended up spending 9 days in the jungle at this beautiful homestay. And I just sat on my balcony for hours and watched the rain fall down. I ordered in Balinese food. I watched Sex in the City. I slept 10 hours a night. I cried. I laughed. I grieved. I healed. And it was by far one of my favorite parts of the trip, like top 2, I'd say. And that is so powerful to me because the me a few years ago, I couldn't be alone at all. Like in general, like I used to have back to back to back plans. Like I could not sit alone. I could not sit in silence, and I could not just be, with no plans, with nothing. I really thought, when I go to Ubud, maybe I'll do like some yoga retreat or something. I just kept thinking retreat. That's what everyone does in Bali. But to be honest, like the most powerful and healing moments for me was in solitude, or was in dancing, or was in, being on the back of a grab bike, just crying, looking up at the stars at night. Like it was all in those micro moments. And I think sometimes we just need stillness to heal. And it was such a beautiful experience. And then when I was leaving, this is going to make me emotional. When I was leaving Ubud to go back to Canggu, getting ready to go home, I had this epiphany, this realization that, remember the first time when I was in Ubud and I was like trying to find this healing moment and I wanted to be in the jungle in that hut and I just couldn't do it and I was so discouraged. It was never meant to work out then because I needed to endure. I needed to shed, purge, and learn everything that happened in between in those 3 months for me to actually sit and heal. So I was like, damn, that's why it didn't work out. That's why I was so frustrated that I was like, I just want to heal. I just want to heal. But the universe was like, wait, it's not time yet. I've got to show you everything that you need to heal first. I've got to expose all of these things that you need to work on and that you need to heal. That moment when I realized that was like beautiful. I was just like bawling. My Grab driver in the front just being a king, leaving me be. I asked him for a tissue at one point. He pulled through. But it was a really cool realization. And I think it's such a powerful reminder that everything happens in the time it's meant to. And, I commend myself for being so proactive and wanting to have that healing jungle moment. But I had no idea what I needed to deal with and to overcome and to endure before I actually, fully achieved it and was ready to. So that was really cool. And the other thing that I learned on this trip, well, I learned a ton. I learned one, I have so much self-confidence now, like so much self-confidence. Like I can do anything. Like I just took myself on a 3-month trip to Bali. I had like a bunch of medical emergencies. I figured it out. I made connections. I lost connections. I set boundaries. Like I have so much inner strength from doing that and so much self-confidence and self-love and self-respect that have all come from me watching me execute this beautifully and figure it out and allow it to be messy and allow my emotions to flow through me, even if they're fucking uncomfortable. Another thing that I practiced when I was in Bali was just like blunt honesty. Okay. Like I was raised in an environment where I had to stay safe and stay alive. So it wasn't an environment that was safe for me to express how I felt or to express my full desires or needs or wants ever. So going into adulthood with that kind of mindset, you end up in some weird situations because you're a yes man and you're a people pleaser and you're living for others and you're very hyper vigilant to others' movements. And it's just a very eggshell life. So in the last, decade, I've worked really hard on undoing the people pleasing part of me. And I feel like I've successfully done it at this point, but I really feel like this last trip helped catapult me into completing it because I was just blunt and honest with everyone. Like, no, I don't feel like doing that. Even like conversations, that were being had. There was this one debate that was happening and this guy was like, what are your thoughts? And I was like, yeah, I don't have enough information on this to speak on it. So maybe we can switch the subject and talk about it with talk about something else, or maybe you can talk about that with someone else. And he was like, no, I think you should just voice your opinion. And I was like, no, I don't want to. I don't feel comfortable with it. So, and that for me was always a really hard thing to do because I never felt like my opinion mattered or was equal to anyone else speaking. I always felt less than. So I just really, really pushed my limits on this trip and just said everything that I felt, where I was uncomfortable with. I was super honest. I showed up as my most authentic self. Everyone that met me on this trip got my most authentic version of me. And, there was even a time where I'd hung out with this guy and I could tell he was just trying to hook up. And I didn't want to hook up. I was not interested in him like that. And I was like, nah. And I pulled him outside of the club and I said, listen, I feel like you're just trying to hook up with me. I'm not down. I wanted to let you know so you can maybe find a girl to hook up with tonight if that's like your mission, but like, it's not me. And he was just like, shug. I was like, we're all dying. Like, why are we wasting time being dishonest? Like, that's just how I feel. And you're kind of like, invading my space and I'm just having a good time and you're being a bit forward and I'm just not comfortable and I just don't want that. He's like, but we hung out all day. I'm like, so? We had a great day. I'm like, we did have a great day. That doesn't warrant you fucking having sex with me or being able to, you know what I mean? It was really cool to be able to like empower that side of me and just, especially with men, because obviously there was many men there and like definitely lots of interactions with them and, got hit on a lot and danced with a lot and we had a lot of fun. You guys are not getting the R-rated version, sorry. If you're friends with me in person, you can get it, but no. There's got to be some things left to mystery. Oh my God, so funny. But no, it was a really cool opportunity to practice just being totally authentic and honest and be comfortable in doing so. And no, this makes me uncomfortable. I don't want to do it, or I'm going to head out because I'm feeling a bit overstimulated and I just need to cry, or I just need to, because I'm like, who cares? Like, what are you going to judge me for being authentic? That's the weirdest thing a human could do to someone. Like, what? So I just didn't care. And I really let go. I really did release my inhibitions. Let me tell you something. Thank you, Natasha, for the inspiration, because I did just that. And it was super freeing and amazing. And like I said, I just feel like I grew so much in such a small amount of time because of all these things that I was pushing myself to do and try and experience. And it was incredible. The other thing that I found really interesting when I was there is I had so much deja vu. Like, there was one point I had it 7 times in one day, specifically in Ubud, which I thought was interesting. It made me think, for those of you that believe in this, you'll get it. But if not, that's okay. We can all have our own beliefs. But it made me feel like I had been there in a past life, for sure. It just felt right. It felt like home. Like, I can't even explain it other than that. Like, it just felt exactly where I was meant to be. And I forever feel so blessed with all the connections I made, the friendships I made, the growth. And something else this trip really taught me is I can trust in myself. That was something I always really struggled with because I was constantly making decisions out of survival and out of people pleasing and all this, this other shit that was kind of guiding my life before I was healed. So I made some pretty questionable decisions and I dated, some people that weren't very good to me and for me. So for me, I lost a lot of trust in my ability to make good decisions for myself. But the situations that I was put in, I trusted my gut in all of them. And in one of them, it really saved me. And I'm so grateful for it. So I do feel blessed that that situation happened. And even though it, set me back, it felt like, or triggered my PTSD, I do feel so grateful that I was able to all along feel this uneasy feeling. Like, this is your reminder to listen to your gut. And I really do want to share that story of what happened in full detail. It's quite long, so I'm not going to do it on this episode, but when I'm ready, I will go into detail with it because I think it's important for all humans, but especially women, to be mindful of this and be wary of this when it comes to men. And when it comes to anyone, if you just get an off feeling about it, like, it's for a reason. Our bodies are far more intelligent than our minds, and we need to trust them more. But for me, because I had lost that ability to trust in myself, it was harder. I've always just been like, oh, it's one of my mental health disorders. It's just a symptom. It's not actually what I feel. So I think that's really just validated a lot of my instinct. And this really helped revive that. And now I totally trust in it, to the point that actually this happened the other day. This was really cool. So this guy came up to me and asked for my number or whatever. And he was like shooting a shot. This was in Vancouver. And he was just like pickup line after pickup line after pickup line. And I was just like, oh my God, you have any authenticity to you? Like, you know what I mean? I'm like, damn, you're just like a walking pickup line. Like, you might be the book people buy to help learn pickup lines. Like, what the fuck? And he asked for my number. And sometimes I will give out my number in a situation where I don't feel like dealing with saying no to a man, because sometimes their ego gets in the way more times than not. So sometimes I will just do it and then not respond or block them if they're really weird, you know. Sometimes if I'm in the mood, I'm like, no, I don't want to give it to you. But it was like a situation where I was with a friend and like they were talking to the other person. So I was like, okay, whatever. And something that I realized when I was in Bali and traveling is that I put so much of myself out there on the internet, on these platforms, on this podcast. Like, I give so much of my authentic self to the public that I am an easier target for somebody to manipulate me, because they could take, one look at my page and be like, okay, she's into all of this. Or you could, they could listen to all of my podcast episodes, memorize me and gaslight me and love bomb me and all this shit, right? That made me very weary. And in Bali, I had this moment of being like, damn, like, is this for me? Is this something I want to continue? Because it's a lifestyle choice. It's totally a lifestyle choice. To be this vulnerable is not always easy. And I overthink it and sometimes have a bit of anxiety about it because, yeah, it can put me in some weird situations. And like I said, I can be at risk for people who would want to manipulate me or take advantage of that. So I had this really kind of breakthrough moment of realizing that is, the journey I'm on. And I need to be extra cautious when I do decide to date, of making sure they're not mirroring me and making sure they've not memorized me and making, you know what I mean? So it was really interesting. So when I met this person that asked for my number, last week, because of his inability to be authentic and to be so pre-recorded, I was like, this for me is a red flag because of what I'm looking for and what I need to be careful of. Because somebody who's that like memorized and, has been just saying all this shit just to get a reaction. You're not even being your authentic self. Or the only thing you said that was authentic might have been your name, and you might have been lying. That might not have been your name. So it was interesting because the friend I was with was like, oh, maybe they were nervous, maybe, And I was like, no, this is I'm not going to respond to this person. Like, I don't know. And it was cool because the old me would have been like, oh yeah, maybe, or whatever. But I was like, nope, I know this is one of the behaviors that I need to be wary of, is people like that. People who are not showing up as their authentic self off the jump. Like, if you're not authentic off the jump, like, you ain't gonna be authentic down the road. Like, I feel like first impressions are big. And so, yeah, that's an interesting topic. Honestly, I would really want to do a deep dive into that and into like, honestly, all my dating advice up until this point in my life, because I feel like I've learned a lot. I've had a wide variety of like different types of relationships and dating experiences that I think people could benefit from hearing. So yeah, that's definitely going to be one of the next episodes, because I feel really passionate about discussing it and just warning signs and things to look out for and how to love yourself and make sure you love yourself enough before you get into a relationship, right? And all of those other things. But yeah, so that was a really cool thing to walk away from Bali, is knowing that I can trust myself and be aware of men that may be manipulating me or wanting to manipulate me, and just looking out for those signs. That's something that I've not been able to do. And just reassuring that I can have fun sober and shut down the clubs and, be the littest one in there and just be on water. Like, that was a really cool thing. I got a lot of compliments from people. This one guy tried to offer me a scotch in the middle of the dance floor. Very strange. But I was like, oh, no, thank you. And he's like, why? And I was like, oh, I don't drink. Also, like, what? You can tell a lot of men like don't know what it's like to be a woman, obviously, or they've not spoken to women. Like, of course, am I going to take a stranger's drink in the middle of a dance floor? Like, what? You could literally roofie me. But I was like, no, I don't drink. And he's like, you don't drink? Like, like, you are a vibe. I was like, thank you. I just am the vibe without alcohol. That's such a flex, in a world that is hyper consuming poison to have fun and let loose. it's very cool to be able to not have to do that and to just show up and be my authentic self and to remove myself when I feel the time is right. And even with all the friendships I did make, there were a couple that I did have to remove. And that felt good too. Just being like, okay, like, you know, we had a good run, but this person isn't what I'm looking for in a friendship. And I've just become so much more strict with my boundaries and implementing them. And also I feel like because of how much love and care and attentiveness I give myself, my standards have gone through the roof for friendships and relationships. Like if you can at least match, like matching my energy is bare minimum, let alone offer more, right? Because what is the benefit of having an added person in my life if you're not going to bring me more than I already have brought myself, you know? So yeah, I just feel like there was an immense amount of wisdom gained, immense amount of self-love, loyalty, trust built, friendships, you know. It was just such a cool experience. And anyone who is considering solo traveling, like do it. Do it. I hear a lot of people, mainly women I speak to about the solo travel thing. So I hear a lot of women say, oh, I could never do it. Bitch, you could do it. Of course you can do it. You can do anything you set your mind to. You can do it. Is it scary? Yes. As somebody who's very extroverted, I still get scared. And not in the sense of something bad's going to happen to me, but in the sense of, am I going to have fun? Am I going to meet people? Am I going to, you know, look silly or do something embarrassing? Like those are all very normal things to be scared of. But on the other side of that, if you don't ever take that leap, like, is significantly scarier to stay in the same place and never challenge yourself to grow. So that's my Bali trip, guys. That is, damn. It's crazy to have all those memories wrapped up into an episode. It's actually wild. And I've been so looking forward to sharing this with you guys and hopefully inspiring some of you to take the leap and do a solo trip and trust in yourselves more, man. The relationship that you have with yourself, I've said this before and I'll say it again. It is the most important relationship you will ever have in your life. So why not treat yourself? Why not go on trips? Like how you love you is how you teach others to love you. How you treat yourself is a magnet to how the rest of the world shows up for you. So pour into you. Take the vacation. Quit your job. If it doesn't align with you, quit your fucking job. You know, I don't stand for working in a place that is bad for your mental health. No. But put you first, honestly. We've got 5 months left of this year. You do you. Book a trip, you know? And even if it's not something that you can afford, like do a weekend away or just curate a self-care routine or, you know, say no more to other people and say yes to you more. You know, there's lots of ways that you can do it that doesn't include a trip to Bali. But I hope you guys have enjoyed listening half as much as I've enjoyed creating this for you and honestly vlogging the whole journey. It was so much fun. Again, if you're new here and you want to see visual of what I've been through and what I went through and all the fun ups and downs and all that stuff, go to my Instagram, follow me, and check out my highlights. Bali 1, 2, 3, and 4. They were amazing. All right, guys, sending you so much love. Thank you so much for tuning in and being patient with the delay of this episode. I have no idea what I'm going to drop next for a topic, but I'm very excited to do it. I feel like now I'm back in the groove of the podcasting and I'm excited to bring you more. And honestly, maybe it will be the topic I chatted about. Maybe it will be the dating and all the advice I have. I think that'd be a good one. I think that might be the one. All right, guys, until next time, okay? Take care of yourselves. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. I loved having you. If you wish to support this podcast, please follow us so you never miss an episode. You can also find us on social media at Full Minded Podcast. Please visit our website at www.fullmindedpodcast.com to submit all your questions. If you wish to be a guest on this podcast, please fill out the form on our website to apply. Your continued support means the world, so thank you again for taking the time out of your day to tune into Full Minded with Alyssa Bette. Until next time, be kind to yourselves and remember that there is power in owning our imperfect and messy lives. It's all a part of the human experience, and you're not alone in it.